Alright, good morning gentlemen. Today I'm going to show you how to start off your personal budget project. And the first step is to create a spending journal. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. This is actually the very first video that I've ever made before in terms of an instructional video. So we'll see how this goes. Bear with me. Okay, so go ahead and log into your Google Docs account, or your Google Drive account anyways. Google Docs is actually going to be changing to Drive very shortly here. Uh, and it's just an upgrade in terms of cloud storage that you have available to you, and maybe just the functionality is changing just a bit. But so log in, and you're going to create a spreadsheet. Okay, now spreadsheets are almost identical to Microsoft Excel, so if you've used that before, it's pretty much the same functions and everything inside that. So I'm going to start a spreadsheet, and the first thing you do, like with every Google Docs assignment, right, is you retitle your document. Okay, so I'm going to have you retitle this as your last name dot budget. Okay, so go ahead and type that in and click OK. And then you're going to rename your sheet, the first sheet here, to spending journal. Okay. Alright, now like I said, this is pretty much like Excel. We have columns, we have rows. Okay, so in the first row, columns A through D, we're going to put in the following labels. So it's going to be date, expense, amount, and category. Okay, and that's all we're going to add for the labels right now. But one thing you can do with Excel, and one thing that I would suggest doing, is to resize your columns so that they fit your needs a little bit better. So the date, obviously that's not going to be very long. You can just click and drag that. So obviously you see I'm here at the border of the column. Okay, the expense, that's where you're going to want to be a little bit more descriptive, so you can make that a little bit bigger. The amount's going to be a little bit smaller, and the category you can leave about there. Okay, and one other thing you're going to want to do is, because these are labels, we're going to want to highlight them or make them stand out a bit. So go ahead and highlight the 4 cells that include the labels, and you can do this a number of different ways. We can bold them, right? We can make them centered in the cell. We can change the text color. We can change the font, the background color. Okay, so you can play with that a little bit. Alright, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to record your expenses for yesterday, which would have been the 22nd, so Wednesday. Right? So for each day, you're going to include it. You're going to put an entry in for each day. Right? So 8/22, and if you notice, that's going to automatically put it into date format. It picks that up automatically. And then go ahead and put the expense in. So maybe I'll start with lunch. And you can leave it as lunch if you want, or you can be as descriptive as you want. My suggestion is to try to be as descriptive as you can. So lunch, we'll say we got pizza and drink. Okay, so we'll say that was, I don't know what the prices are at the snack shop, but we'll say that was $4.50. Okay, and we'll say we also had to ride the bus, and what is that, $1.50 now? Okay, we also had a snack on the way home. So that was a candy bar. Okay, 75 cents, right? And then maybe last night you went out with friends, you went to the movies, movie ticket. Okay, that would be I don't know, 8.50. Okay, so one other thing you do is you need to give each expense a category. Now the categories, we're going to put another set of categories over here. Okay, it's going to be the same thing, but the categories I want you to use are food, transportation, entertainment, health, clothing, savings, and other. Okay, so go ahead and put those in there. And so these are the categories you're going to use, so you can go ahead and categorize what each of these would be. Okay, now an important thing when you categorize is you need to make sure that you're spelling these the exact same way that you spell them over here. And I'll get to that later, why that's important. Okay. And then also, why don't you go ahead and put any expenses in that you might have had today already. So if you had breakfast, right, maybe that was $3. Okay. Now one thing is that this is not showing in dollars, right? It's just showing decimals. Okay, we need to show in dollar amounts because we're working with money. So you could go on each one, you could actually put the dollar sign, right? Put it in like that. Or you could, an easier way is to just click on column C, click on the C, and hit the number sign up here. You're going to format it as currency. So that means that the entire column is going to be dollars. If it's a number, it's going to be in dollar format. Okay, so the next time you put something in, okay, this time it's chips. Okay, it'll just show up as a dollar. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is set up a formula. So we want to use a formula because we want, while you're putting in each expense, we want it to calculate and sum or add up all of the expenses all over here. This will be easier for you to go into the next step after the spending journal. Okay, so like I said, we're going to use a formula, and formulas are very cool because they do the work for you, right? We could go through one by one and count up all of the food expenses and add it up ourselves on a calculator, but using a formula, it'll take care of it for us. Okay, so this is going to be called a bi-weekly total. Okay, and bi-weekly would mean 2 weeks. Okay, and so I told you we'd probably be doing it for 2 or 3 weeks, so we'll try and see how many expenses we get in there. We might have to make it tri-weekly. Okay, but so the formula that we're actually going to put in is, it's called a sum if formula. So anytime you put a formula in, you start with the equal sign, right? It designates that this is going to be a formula. So like I said, it's a sum if. Now what this means is, just like it gives you a description here, okay, it says, pretty much to summarize it, it's going to add up anything that meets a certain criteria, right? Okay, so it actually gives you some hints here. It tells you what range you're going to use and what criteria you're going to follow, and then what range of cells you're going to add up. Okay, so range is actually talking about it's the range of cells. So for like example, A1 to A14, that's a range of cells. Okay, and the criteria, obviously, it's whatever specification you're getting, whatever rule you're telling it to follow, right? Okay, so sum if, we're going to open the parentheses until that's the beginning of the criteria, right? So the first one was range. Okay, now we're looking at the D column. Okay, so we're going to have them look at all of these categories. So just click on the D column, right? And you have to click on comma. And the next is we're going to tell it the criteria. So in this first one, we're looking at food, right? So we're going to say all of the things in this column that meet the category of food. So click on this cell. It's going to come F2, right? F2, comma again. Now you have your range of cells you want it to add up. Okay, so that would be the amounts column. So click on C. Right, now once you do that, you're going to close the parentheses and hit enter, and it should add it up for you. Okay, so you have the 450, 75 cents, $3, and 150. It should add up to 975. And again, we're going to use dollars, so click on the G column and hit the dollar sign. Okay, now we could input this formula for all of the other categories as well, right? We could sum if and go through the whole thing all over again, but I'll show you another trick that's really cool. Okay, if you're going to use the same formula but just use one different criteria, so we're just going to use the same formula but use transportation, okay, you can just copy that formula down by going and clicking on this cell Okay, and see this little box down here? When it turns into a plus sign, you click on that and you just drag down. Okay, and it's going to copy the formula down, but use different criteria, whichever matches this over here. Okay, so now obviously we don't have anything for health, clothing, savings, or other, so that's why there's 0. These are calculated. So then what happens if, for example, we ride the bus again, right? Another $1.50. Okay, and we put this in as transportation, and it should add up over here. Okay, we put something in as clothing. I don't know what's $5, maybe a pair of socks. Okay, that's an expensive pair of socks for $5. Okay, so clothing $5, right? Put whatever else in as you categorize it, it should pop up over here. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for the spending journal. You need to make sure you have at least one entry per day. If you don't have, if you don't spend anything on that day, like I said, try to think of what your parents spent on you, how much your lunch was if you brought it from home. Try to calculate that with your parents. If you really didn't spend anything at all, for example, like it's a Sunday and you didn't go anywhere, you didn't do anything, and you don't think you can calculate the expense that was spent on you, then you can actually put right no expenses for that day. Okay, but this should only be like maybe 1 or 2 days out of the whole 2 weeks or 3 weeks that we do this. If I see someone having 4 or 5 days in a row of no expenses, then it's obviously showing that you're not putting enough effort into calculating how much is spent on you. So you need to actually calculate it out. Talk with your parents, see how much that food was for you, see how much how much the gas was when they drove you to school or to a game or whatever, practice. Okay? So talk with your parents about this, figure out how much they're spending on you so you can figure out how much it would be if you were on your own. All right? So if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Obviously, we'll see how you guys did with this video when I come back to school, and I will see you guys on Tuesday, I believe. All right, we'll see you later.